What are we to say about Mr. Collins? The man slides into you like a plate of fresh waffles doused in ketchup and mustard. On his arrival at Longbourn, his first order of business had been to inform Mrs. Bennet that her daughters were not as pretty as rumoured, that fame had fallen short of the truth. He may have forgotten to say to the girls, "In case you're wondering, I'm single." The main boast of Mr. Collins is that he's come to be distinguished by the patronage of the Right Honourable Lady Catherine de Bourgh, widow of Sir Lewis de Bourgh. He is to be a local clergyman in this regard and has been urged by the lady to marry as soon as possible. His plan is to atone for the sin of standing to inherit the Longbourn estate by marrying into the Bennet family. As he examines the Bennet sisters, you can believe that he finds favour with Mrs. Bennet. "You are very kind, sir, I am sure," she says to him, "and I wish with all my heart it may prove so, for else they will be destitute enough." Mr. Collins was not a sensible man. Dense like a stack of bricks, the deficiency of nature had been but little assisted by education or society. His early life had been spent under the guidance of an illiterate and miserly father, and though his upbringing had given him great humility of manner, it was now a good deal counteracted by the self-conceit of a weak mind. Mr. Collins becomes incredibly embarrassing when he's struck with the urge, undaunted, to introduce himself to Mr. Darcy, who happens to be the nephew of his patroness. And it should be noted that the man did not read novels.
Why didn't Mr. Collins read novels? It was because novels were dangerous to the imaginations of young ladies. One of the most influential attacks on British novels of the age were the associations they had with decadent, libertine, aristocratic culture. We learn all about it in The Evils of Adultery and Prostitution, published in 1792. The dissipated rake who glories in his debaucheries is painted often as humane, generous, and benevolent, whilst the heedless female, for the sake of these accomplishments, forgets his want of principles, his diseased body, and his rotten heart. Many young girls from morning to night hang over this pestiferous reading, to the neglect of industry, health, proper exercise, and to the ruin both of body and soul. And this pernicious practice is not confined to girls only of fortune, but extends to every age and rank. And there are instances even of servant girls who are well acquainted with all the fashionable romances. People like Mr. Collins would condemn novels for their corrupting effect on the minds and morals of their readers, linking this effect to dire social consequences. The danger, as far as critics were concerned, was that the sordid values of decadent aristocratic culture would penetrate the lives and consciousness of those below them in society. First, there was the historic romance, in which there is a mixture of truth and fable, of novel and history. Then there was the hobgoblin romance, or Gothic novel, which was dismissed as mere trash. Novel reading was disapproved of in Britain from the 17th century at least, but never more so than in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. They were seen as a potential corrupting influence on readers, particularly young women, by promoting unrealistic ideas about love and life, potentially leading them to make poor decisions, and distracting them from more useful pursuits. Didactic novels, by contrast, provided a venue for women to read, write, and learn about acceptable social codes and values. Samuel Richardson believed them to provide practical examples, worthy to be followed in the most critical and affecting cases, by the modest virgin, the chaste bride, and the obliging wife. The didactic point is that readers should be aware of the spiritual danger lurking within foul-weather Christianity. If you can keep the fear of damnation in mind when you are not in any particular proximity to your Maker, you will be a spiritually healthier person with moral standing and respectability, and thus, truly worthy of the marriage market. And so it was fitting for Mr. Collins to produce a copy of Fordyce's sermons when the time came for reading to the Bennet sisters.
On the morning following the Netherfield ball, Mr. Collins addresses Mrs. Bennet. "May I hope, madam, for your interest with your fair daughter Elizabeth, when I solicit for the honour of a private audience with her in the course of this morning." Mrs. Bennet is all attention and Lizzie is forced to listen. Mr. Collins proposes marriage, citing 3 reasons for doing so. The first is that he wants to set the example that every clergyman should marry. The second is that he's convinced it will make him happy. The third is that he's essentially being ordered to do so by his patroness. It would seem that he's forgotten to mention that he admires her childbearing hips. Promptly, Elizabeth declines the offer. Mr. Collins does not compute. "I am not now to learn," he says, "that it is usual with young ladies to reject the addresses of the man whom they secretly mean to accept." Lizzie is forceful. "I am perfectly serious in my refusal." He says to her, "I shall choose to attribute it to your wish of increasing my love by suspense, according to the usual practice of elegant females." At her wit's end, Elizabeth declares, "I do assure you, sir, that I have no pretensions whatever to that kind of elegance which consists in tormenting a respectable man." Mr. Collins, in a most calm and collected manner, closes out the moment by informing her that she was uniformly charming. "And I am persuaded," he adds, "that when sanctioned by the express authority of both your excellent parents, my proposals will not fail of being acceptable." Elizabeth appears to agree that the matter must be settled with the help of her parents, most preferably by her father, who has the final word. "Your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins, and I will never see you again if you do." It is a catastrophe for Mrs. Bennet, but it comes across as a moment of clarity for Mr. Collins, who feels that a headstrong young woman like Miss Elizabeth Bennet may not be the best choice for a bride after all. Do you have any opinions about Mr. Collins? Please let us know in the comments. Book Time Learning is dedicated to the study of writing and literature. If you enjoyed our video, please consider clicking the like button and/or subscribing. And thank you for watching.